Thank you for joining. This is being live streamed by YouTube, so as soon as that gets rolling, everyone who's out there joining in with us, thank you. What we're going to cover today, oops, let me move my controls somewhere else. What we're going to cover today is some new demo material, a little bit different than the demo material you might be used to. It is what I call a click-through demo, and it is for Auto DevOps. I've created a couple of these. One is for the setup of Auto DevOps. One is for the run. That's why this says Auto DevOps Run. And another is actually one that I created beforehand, which is out there, which is for kind of a quick little look at security. The way this works is it's a slide deck. You can actually, there's a way to set it up on auto rev, so it just kind of goes through the slides. But for your use, it's click through, it's interactive, and so we'll see that as we go through it. Let's see. Let me start sharing my desktop, which I just realized I'm not sharing. Okay, can I get a thumbs up to make sure that everyone's seeing that? Good, thank you. Okay, I'm reminded to remove controls so where I can still get to them. Excellent. Okay, great. So this is, as I mentioned, it's a presentation. You start it up, take over your screen. I'm in Firefox, so just as a kind of a tip, if you run it in Firefox, you still kind of get the URL and the window and all that stuff. Doesn't go full screen. There's an advantage to that if you're doing stuff like this, because you can still move your windows around. If you're doing it with Chrome, then it takes over the whole screen, which can be nice. So I'm gonna walk through this as explaining it to you. I'm not gonna necessarily give the demo, but there's a quick screen, talk about Auto DevOps. There's 12 functionalities that are part of GitLab that Auto DevOps pulls together and creates a automated pipeline that goes through all of these items: auto build, auto test, auto code quality, auto, SAST, dependency. So SAST is static application security testing, dependency scanning, the brand new license management is in there, container scanning, review apps, dynamic application security testing, automatically deploying to production, doing browser performance testing, and auto monitoring. So that is a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of stuff to cover in any one demo, but we're going to do it. Too many times there, sorry. Okay, you might have seen, sorry, my computer's a little slow this morning. You might have seen this slide on one of our little teaser videos. So we're saying it's 2 steps to done. Obviously, that doesn't mean 2 steps including setup. Once your configuration is ready to go, put your code in, and it goes, right? So all of those things I just mentioned are getting done as part of Auto DevOps. You create, Auto DevOps does the rest. So let's actually take a look at that. So this is a not live demo, and you see it's going to do prompts up here. And so what it does is it does a little delay time. So if you know where you're going to click, you can talk it through and you can click through. If you don't know, it will come up and it'll say, hey, create a brand new project, and you can click and go to new project. You can insert your talk track here as you're going along, and don't worry when it pops up and says, oh, by the way, right? Type your name in for a new project. So cool, I'm going to do that. I'll call it Spring App here. We're going to create a brand new app. We'll make it public, so you can set your different desired levels. We're just going to go ahead and make this public, because public by default, right? That's GitLab. And then click Create Project. That's going to give us a blank empty project, as you can see here. We scroll down, so there's sometimes prompts that are just scrolling like that or moving back in space. We see here that we've got code. I've already got, so the talk track is I've already got code in my that I've coded up in my local directory, and this is some helper code that GitLab gives us to go ahead and pull that into the repository. So click it to copy, pull up a terminal window, and again, there's more talk track, and in the comments of this deck are kind of the talk track that you can talk along with this. So I'm going to paste it into the terminal. That's different. I think that just jumped. And then that's going to go ahead and pull in all my code. I'm going to close the terminal window and reload my project so that I can see the changes in the web interface. And I think it was repository. And go to files. So I'm starting, you can see now I'm starting to click a little bit ahead of the bullets coming, or the prompts coming up. So if I do that, it kind of just looks like you're clicking through the product. So here now we see my files loaded in. Note, and here's the note here, that there's nothing special about this project. It's no CI/CD configuration, no Docker file. It's just my code from my directory. So let's go find out a file that we want to edit. So we'll dig down into source here. We'll go main Java, and we'll go to hello controller. So again, I can click ahead of it, but if I wait, it'll prompt me and eventually highlight it in case you don't remember exactly where to click. So now I'm looking at the code. There's something I'm going to make a tweak on. We can edit it here in place, but gosh, we've got this cool web IDE. Let's check that out. We can talk about the web IDE. You can let people understand the difference. Why is it a web IDE? It's got all the files. You can edit different files. We're going to see the diffs in just a minute, but I'm going to go ahead and edit this message. I'm going to get rid of the comment, which said to do something, personalize this message. I'm going to go ahead and select Spring Boot and customize that to GitLab. And then I'm going to commit. And if I wait, it should show me at some point, commit your changes. Cool. So as you're using this, for one, you can kind of train yourself on a demo this way and kind of get to the point where you're getting ahead of the prompts. If you don't, it's okay. The intent here is not to fool somebody to thinking that they're actually seeing the real product, obviously. It's to be able to walk them through and let them feel what it feels like to use the product. The web IDE shows you the changes side by side. This is a very cool thing in the web IDE, right? This is what I just changed. I want to move those desired changes to staging. For my commit, I want to add a commit message. Right, fix up the message. Then instead of committing to master or even just to a branch, I want to go ahead and create a new branch and a merge request. And the prompt, I'm pretty sure, is down here, but I can't see it behind the slide thing. That's going to be something I need to tweak. I can't get to it. So here's a good example. Even if you can't get to the button that you want to push because the stupid slide controls keep popping up in front of you, you can click anywhere. And the truth is, actually, you can go through this entire slide deck by just clicking. You don't have to actually click on the buttons or anything. It will just advance to the next slide. Okay, so that brings me back to the merge request, or sets up the merge request. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to the bottom of the merge request because that's where all the action is. And I can see here that I have my source branch, Dan Gordon master patch, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to merge it to master. I'm going to go ahead and keep our repository clean. Ask GitLab to remove the source branch, or the branch I'm merging once the merge has happened. And then we're going to submit the request. I can get to that button. And it's a little bit pokey today on my machine. Okay, so here's the cool part. There's a pipeline. Auto DevOps started a CI/CD pipeline. Remember, I didn't have any CI/CD files. I didn't have any configuration, no Docker file. It was just my code. And look at that, we got a pipeline running, right? So let's go click on that and take a look. Here's the pipeline. Look at all that stuff Auto DevOps is doing for us. First thing is the build. Let's take a quick look at the auto build. Now, the reason we bring you here, because it's just a bunch of code, right? Blah, blah, blah. This is your chance to talk about right there. Auto DevOps uses Heroku build packs, detects the language, figures out how to build it, how to create the Docker image. That's a lot of work it's doing for us. Let's go back. We see the build is now done, and it's kicked off all of these in parallel, all of these different quality checks, right? So code quality, container scanning, and here's where you can talk about each one of these if you want to. It's okay if the prompt comes up, it'll wait for you. There's nothing that's going to auto advance. So you can spend as much time as you want here talking about each of these, license management, static application security testing, and regular testing from Heroku build packs. And then we move forward. Once those are all complete, then Auto DevOps will build a review app for you and get that set up so you can actually look at it. And this is being put on a Kubernetes cluster. So let's take a closer look at that process happening. You see there's a lot of work that it's doing. It's pulling this, it's pulling that, it's installing. The key here is those the Helm charts. And this is actually the Helm chart area. So what it's doing is it's using Helm charts, which is a definition of how to set up an application in container land. And that's pretty cool. If you have your own Helm chart, and I try to mention this at the Docker level and at the Helm chart level, because those are our config files that define how things are put together. It's good to mention that if a customer has their own version of the Docker file or a Helm chart in their repository, then Auto DevOps will pick those up and use that instead, which means they can custom define how their application gets installed. So we're going through, we see that it's doing all sorts of stuff for us. When we get to succeeded, so we're going to go back to the pipeline. So the pipeline's moving on. So we have this review app now, which means our app is running live. Now that we have a review app, that means we can do cool stuff like dynamic application security testing, because that means that dynamic application security testing means we have a running app and we're seeing how it behaves for vulnerabilities in a running app. A lot of situations, folks are without GitLab, and especially without Auto DevOps, it's an extra effort to set up a live environment to then do DAST testing. And so it's usually saved all the way until the end. And I don't mean the end of the pipeline, I mean the end of the whole run of the whole development cycle. So here we're moving it left, even though it's kind of on the right. But this allows us to do that testing as well as the performance testing, which is out here for later. But let's go ahead and pop back to the merge request. We're going to let it go ahead and spin on that stuff. You see the pipeline is still here, is reflecting the stages that we're in, but there's a new, whoops. Okay, so there is a risk if you accidentally tap too fast, but the cool thing is you can go back. I can go back. There we go. Slow computer today. So there is a new line that got added to the merge request. You see this one here. And what this is telling us is that it deployed into this environment our application. This is our review app. So we can go ahead and take a look at that. This is our new code running live. This is the change we made. Hello from GitLab. Nice, beautiful green. This looks good. So imagine this is in a whole application, not just a static web page. It will still be there. We do this with our website every time we make a change. And you can go through the whole website and check it out and make sure everything's good. So looks good. I'm going to go back to the merge request. At this point, I don't remember. Let's see. You can also point out that there's memory information, right? It's measuring the amount of memory usage. So it's going to tell us if we've increased or decreased, and we can get a better sense of whether or not we should be concerned about the new code that we're putting out there. We also have a code quality report. So over here on the right is the expand, so we can go look at more details. We can see here that that we got the to-do taken care of, so it liked that. So yay for us. So that's good. We also have performance test results. And if we keep scrolling down a little bit, just to, again, center our page, we have security test summary. Uh-oh, looks like we have at least one new vulnerability. So we're going to expand and look at that. And I can see that there's a vulnerability here. Cool thing is we can pop into there and get more information. We have all sorts of details. We can get right to the actual published security report. And we can actually look in our file and have the line highlighted, or the area highlighted that is in question and concern. So this gives us the context and helps us to go fix the problem. So we'll go back here, and I'm going to say this is good. And one of the things I forgot to point out, it is in the script. So this is cool, right? You can go back. We're going to go back to here. The other thing you can point out is that at this point, you can dismiss the vulnerability, which is whitelisting it for the project, saying, I'm okay with this, don't bother me about this again. You can create an issue, right? So you can take action. This is relatively new. You can take action right from here to create an issue with all this information that says, hey, somebody, we need to do something about this. And then you can move forward from there. That's pretty cool. And we can fast forward back to where we were. My slow computer, I have too much running. Hello. Wow. Okay, so after reviewing the test results and everything, we're going to say we're good, thumbs up, let's merge. It says, hey, it's merged, stuff is happening. And that means it kicked off a new pipeline. So we're going to go take a look at that new pipeline. So here my fan's starting up. We go to pipelines, got it running. And now we see the pipeline that's kicked off, and I went ahead and fast forwarded. This pipeline is a little bit different. Same, it's doing a lot of testing again to confirm that nothing has changed that we need to be concerned about, but it's deploying straight to production, right? This is continuous deployment at its best. We put our code in, did a bunch of tests, we validated we were okay with the results, put it to production, done. Okay, so let's take a look at those results in our environments. So I'll go over to environments. And I can see that I've got a production environment. We can go from there to the live application. So our changes made it in. It looks good. But there's some other cool stuff here in the environment. I can expand the environment, and I can see the instances, the Kubernetes container instances that are running everything. So this is just a single pod right now. That's not that much. So assuming I think everyone wants to see hello from GitLab. So we're going to get a big traffic. So I want to go ahead and scale this up. So we go to our CI/CD settings. We go to the variables area. And we put in a variable called production replicas. We're going to go ahead and kick that up to 5. And we're going to save that variable. And we're going to go ahead to operations, back to our environment, and then we're going to redeploy. Okay. So we redeploy, and that's going to go ahead, and as we watch live on the deploy board, we can see it start to increase the number of replicas or of instances that we have until it gets to 100. Now, unfortunately, we can't auto forward in Google Slides, so you're going to have to click that down arrow to get it to move to next. So this is amazing, right? We can see all the way from our code all the way into production. We have our live app. We can scale it. But there's more, right? We've got monitoring built in. So we can actually look at our app, out of the box monitoring. We're looking for error rates. We have that information. Now, we just put this app out there, so there's not a whole bunch of info, but there actually could be. We have our error rate, our latency. We scroll down, we've got the throughput and stats on the Kubernetes infrastructure that we're based on top of. Right, and so this is right here. So we've got the stats on all of our infrastructure, and we can actually put in custom monitoring stuff as well, so that we're looking at maybe our business value and other things that we're interested in watching. So this is really cool, but that was automatic. And a lot of customers not so comfortable yet putting things straight into production, right? Auto DevOps can handle that too. We go to the settings, go to the Auto DevOps setting. And this is where we had enabled Auto DevOps. You see there's the option here, automatic deployment to staging, but then manual deployment to production. We check that, save our changes. I'm just going to click because I can't reach it. So that's a bug I'll have to work out on this. And then we go launch another pipeline to see the changes. So we'll run pipeline. Now, the way Auto DevOps works is when you deploy to a GitLab main branch, main branch in GitLab, that's when it says, okay, this is supposed to go to production. So we're going to leave this as master, which is our main branch. We're going to say, and that's definable. And so here now it's launched a new pipeline, Auto DevOps, remember, so it put together this pipeline for us. Looks pretty similar, except here now we're going to staging environment, and there's the end. And then production deployments are now manual, and I have the option of doing incremental here. So I could either say roll to 100 or roll out 10%, 25% at a time, etc. So that's Auto DevOps in a kind of a turbo boost, turbo run through. Really cool stuff, and that's the demo that you guys can use. Easy to train on. The talking points are in the notes, the slide notes. and you can go backwards and forwards, and it'll kind of prompt you through it as you learn it and work with it. And again, if a customer sees that, that's okay, right? Not a problem. I'm not worried about that. So Auto DevOps, 2 steps to done. And that is the demo. So I'm going to stop there. All of my pauses ended up using a little bit more time than I expected. And I'm going to stop sharing and open it up for questions. Let's see, where's the chat? Are there any questions in chat? Okay.
So Dan, I got a question. So
yeah, please.
Is the vision to have everybody walk through this as a deck or to do it live? What's the end game?
So this is an asset that you can use if you want or need to show a customer. It's a demo. If you're in a situation where you can't give a live demo, which does happen, like at conferences where you don't have access, or even if you're just don't have time to set up a demo, or somebody who can do a demo, this is set up to be pretty straightforward. So whether it's a pretty clean path. Right, you're not going to fall off of it. All right, so everyone should be able to give this demo. And yes, you can do it live. You can do it walking through the deck as part of your discussion with the customer, or sometimes you're sitting on a plane and they say, "Hey, I'd love to see that." Right, it's an asset for you to use. We created it originally for the DUS conference this past week to make sure that there was something that could be shown at the booth, regardless of the network situation. But I think you'll find it usable. And even if it's just to walk through and kind of learn the talking points so that you can understand that when you're talking to people about it.
Yeah. I like the little bullets. That's really nice. That customers can focus on it.
Oh, there's a lot of chat in here. Let's see. Are these chats also for, no, okay. Let's see, just picking up kind of in the middle here. What do I mean by dependency scanning? So dependency scanning is the Auto DevOps, or GitLab really has the ability to go out. It looks at your software and all of the other libraries that your software is pointing to. And then it does a vulnerability scan on those dependencies as well, so that we're not just scanning your code or the customer's code for vulnerabilities, but everything else that it's pointing to as well. So complete picture. Oh, I see that was answered by John. Thank you. Let's see. Did you have to set up Kubernetes? Yes, that's a good point. So in this deck, for this demo, we're saying, okay, the setup was done and you're using it, right? So you're going to start with your code and go from there. There is a little bit of setup to do. There's a different deck that behaves the same way. It's a click through that goes through the setup of both Kubernetes and turning on Auto DevOps. But having said that, with our integration, setting up Kubernetes is really, really simple. You point it at your environment, your Kubernetes environment, and you give it a few pieces of information, cluster name, size, etc. And then you get that. It sets it up for you and hooks it all up. And then you install a few apps so that we can interact with it well. So intent to do another iteration with the without the internal commentary for external distribution. I don't believe there's a need for that, and we're not really saying anything that we don't want or need everyone to hear. If you're talking about maybe without the bubbles, so that you can run through it without it popping up a bubble when you don't want it to, we can do that. Absolutely, I can just pull away the bubbles. It's pretty easy to make that kind of a version. So if there's enough desire for that, absolutely we could do that. Just I'll need to hear from you guys that that's a worthwhile effort. Love the bubbles, cool. Okay, good. Any of the last questions before we wrap this?
Yeah, I've got one, Dan. There's a feature or a checkbox on a merge request that you can auto merge if build succeed or pipeline succeeds. Mm-hmm. Can you flag that with Auto DevOps? So basically, as long as, I don't know how it works with all the different quality gates, but can you auto merge it if we meet the minimum?
Absolutely. So yeah, you can click that button as part of Auto DevOps as well, and it'll abide by that. We tend not to, because most of the things, especially security scanning in general, you're always going to have stuff come up. Security is not about black and white; it's about understanding the risk levels and making a decision. So the security stuff that comes up, most of the time, you're not going to want to say, if I get anything, stop this, right? We will work on getting more advanced so that we can do, say, maybe like a percentage, right? If there's give a range of which you're comfortable versus not. But I think even that, as I say that, what actually is the vulnerability that comes up? You have to make an intelligent decision about, is that really a problem, that I need to be concerned about? And then other things like license scanning and all that. So every single step in Auto DevOps or in any pipeline, any job, you can say, this is a stop when fail job, or a continue and let me continue when fail job. So given that, merge when the pipeline finishes is assuming that the pipeline is set to only finish if everything is good, right? So I think that's, I personally, I'd probably be less likely to use that, because I would want to always look and see what the results are, especially as we add more and more goodness in there.
Got it.
Yeah, it's also important to remember that a security scan that reports vulnerabilities is not a failed pipeline. That is still a successful pipeline.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Absolutely.
Just one more. I noticed in the review app there was the memory consumption change was shown in the. It wasn't in the. I expected to see that in the performance monitoring section, but it was somewhere higher up. I'm wondering, and we didn't expand the performance section of the merge request. Does it show up in there as well, or is it only at the top there?
It does not. There's actually, it's a little interesting. There are actually two different scans, is my understanding, and someone might be able to chime in and give me more information. But I believe that the memory increase, that's coming from our Kubernetes integration, saying, okay, last time we ran this app, right, this is where we were, and so now in Kubernetes, I'm seeing some increase. Now, on the performance scanning, that performance scanning is actually using site-speed.io, spawning up a client and coming back to the application and checking response times and behavior. So they're actually two different scans. You're right, it might make more sense to actually move the increase in memory or the performance of memory down into that section, but they're coming right now from two different scans. So
Got it. Okay, cool, thank you.
Yep. All right, with that, we will call it. Thank you guys for joining and for your questions.